To God be the glory. Disappointed at the start to the game, man. Just, I thought we lacked urgency. And man, we have been good in practice the last 2 days, but man, it's a lesson to learn, and we got to move on. I mean, UAB is a really good team, guys. At the end of the day, bringing a lot of experience back. But they did a really good job, man, of making some shots early in the first half, and I thought that hurt our effort. Every time that we felt like we were cutting into it in the first half, man, one guy would make a mistake and then it would get exposed. So they did a really good job of, man, their game plan. Man, they changed looks up in the 1-3-1 where they normally try to trap you as soon as you cross half. Man, certain guys they didn't do that on, and it kind of had us confused in the first half. And man, I thought it took away our aggressiveness, And so in the second half, we wanted to be more assertive. If they're not gonna guard you or trap you here, man, be more aggressive. Try to get paint touches and move it to open shooters. So, thought we did a better job of that in the second half. But man, when you spot a team 20, it's hard. Especially a team of that caliber, it's hard to come back from.
Well, another question, Coach. They overwhelmed you pretty good on the glass.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to?
Man, their physicality. I thought they did a really good job. I didn't think, we call it watching airplanes. I didn't see much of that tonight where guys were just looking, and the guys were running by you. It was more so their physicality had something to do with it, So, and I was asking the refs, like, man, if we're blocking out and we got a body on you and he's coming over our back, like, is that not a foul? And he said, no, he out-jumped you. So, that's tough when you got a 5'10" down there trying to box out Yaxel, and he's boxing him out, but they say nah, he can still go over your back and get it. So that was a new one for me. I'll put that in the memory bank moving forward.
Coach, as you look at the overall game,
Yeah.
they were able to dribble, penetrate consistently. That's how they found a lot of their shots.
Yes.
I had at one point here late 23 assists on 31 makes. Talk a little bit about how that played a key role in the game.
Well, they do a really good job of all five driving it, right? Like kind of what we've seen, but the difference is they're a little more skilled than some of the teams we face. So like now, first half we made some mistakes. So basically, Yaxel would catch it in a soft spot, and we're taught we don't want to go double him if he still got a live dribble. All right, we had to wait until he was putting it down, and now we want to go get him. That makes him indecisive. Well, a couple times we were so antsy, we started going too early. It was a skip three. So it was some small mistakes made that led to big shots for them, which got them going, and all of a sudden now they got spurtability. One of the fastest playing teams in the country. But man, you can't make mistakes that we made in the first half and give those rhythm shots.
Coach, you talked about how their zone kind of confused you a little bit. The worst thing you can do as a team is think and not react. It looked like you were thinking too much.
Man, like my college coach Don Mason used to say all the time, man, it was paralysis from analysis. You're trying to figure out what they're doing real time, and it's like, guys, settle down. This is what they're doing. This is how we adjust. But at that point, they were so frustrated, and it's like, man, you can't get to that point. We always talk about it being all about us. It's not about what happens. It's how we respond. So I was proud of the response in the second half, but man, that first half, that's where the game was lost.
Coach, and the worst thing is, when you get on the other end, you're defending really well for 20, 25 seconds, then all of a sudden, and the guy's got a hand in the guy's grill, and he's still dropping the dime.
And he jumps up and make one. They made what we call a lot of tough twos tonight, where, man, you wanted to keep them out of the paint, and where did we get them? Well, they climbed up, man. For much of that second half, it was at 20. And so, like, now you're talking about, all right, now we're doing what we wanted to do to keep them out of the paint, but all of a sudden now you got guys dropping daggers. We're doing a good job of trying to keep them out the paint, walling them up, and then they just jump up and stick a tough one. So that's hard because, at the end of the day, they made enough of them to win the game, and that's where it's so hard, But man, we're not going to beat many people, guys, if we're giving up 60% in the first half and 51 in the second. You know, we just got to be better.
Coach, the thing about coaching, you don't want one loss to become two.
Right.
How do you make sure this doesn't feel over to Saturday?
Man, that's why we'll get in there and watch it tomorrow before practice. We'll cover it, but we got to move on because tomorrow's a prep day, and so like I told them in the locker room, it's a quick turnaround. But the last thing you want to do is leave out of this locker room and point fingers. All right, we have to be better, and that's all. That's the only thing we need to be worried about is how to get prepared. One, learning from this film. Two, how do we get prepared to beat a really good Tulsa team coming in here Saturday?
Coach, what can you
Chris
say about a
Coleman,
guy
what
like
makes
Jaden
him
Reed?
such a tough matchup in the paint with his aside from his athletic ability?
Who is that? I'm sorry.
Chris Coleman.
Man, he's so wiry, and he does a really good job, and he plays hard. But, man, he goes to that offensive glass. He's as physical as they come every single time. Now, offensively, man, they don't want to throw it to him unless he's running that floor. Like, he'll never – like, tonight, he was 9 for 11, most of the time just because he was just in the right place at the right time. You know, he's a guy we said, you know, really good rim runner, all right, offensive rebounder, energy guy. You know, he plays the top of that 1-3-1, and, man, he's got a long wingspan. Makes it tough for you guys to reverse it. So, I thought all of his points came off somebody else, either offensive rebounds, running the floor, just playing hard.
Coach, what can you say about a guy like Jaden, who was, you know, at times deferential, maybe a little bit last year, but this year, I mean, even in this game, he was a big reason why you were able to cut into that lead. And not only was he making he wanted the ball, he wanted to take those shots.
Right, and that's growth from him. You know, like I said, he's in a different role. Like he's playing out of position right now. Just because, man, we need his offense. We need his offense and his defense. But, man, like I said before, the game is slowing down for him. And that's where his elevation has come. Like, man, he's done such a good job of kind of reading what's open, trying to make the right play. And then before you know it, we always tell him, man, try to get everybody involved. And then before you know it, they'll forget about you. And then that's when you get yours. So he's doing a good job of kind of reading, reacting what's going on, and processing that stuff real time now, which is good to see.
Coach, you mentioned lack of urgency in the opening 20 minutes. Why do you think that was, especially against a team like UAB?
Man, I hate to speculate, but, man, the first thing that comes to mind for me was the Charlotte game last year. And I say that because that Charlotte game was our first, like, big crowd. And you know, it wasn't a sellout, but it was a pretty good crowd. Both of us were on like a 7 or 8 game win streak. It was for first place, and I just remember we got off to a slow start against Charlotte, and we were down 17 at one point, and then later in the second half, got down 15 or 16, and I thought, man, we were so juiced up from the crowd that it kind of tired us out pretty quick. And I don't want to make excuses for them, guys. I'm not doing that, but I'm figuring it out too. I'm trying to figure out why we got off to such a lackluster start. And like I told him, I think we play hard, but man, that means nothing if we don't have the details to go with it. And that's where I thought we went away from the details in the first half, where we played hard, but man, we probably should have known, hey man, Yax was driving that thing right. So we got to make sure we force him back left, and then we have major support on the backside. So it's little things like that goes in the game plan that you guys won't see, but those are the things that we'll go back tonight and be able to show them, like, hey, this is where we got off track right here. And like I said again, with the double teams, like we went at the wrong time, and you know, when we cover this in our defensive breakdown, we always say, man, when we're doubling, man, you can't go until he puts it down. Once he puts it down, we're going to create some type of indecisive. If you go too early, he's got a live dribble and he can just skip it, and it's an easy play. So little things like that, like I said, it's a small detail, but when you see them spray that for a 3, that's when you're like, okay, come on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Coach, it's a loss.
Yep.
But your kids came out and fought the second 20 minutes. They could have packed the tent and got beat by 30. It's got to be a plus there, knowing that came out. They got it to 6.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, and that's what. Yeah, you're happy they do that, but you're
not
also
the first
frustrated because if you do that in the first half, we're probably sitting here with a different press conference, and I'll probably get a little bit of sleep tonight. But so much for that.
What about your defense of Tony in the first half? Did you defend the three-point line aggressively enough, or did you just tip your hat to him?
No. We definitely didn't want to do that. This game was a little different from the first three that we played. We were protecting the paint, and man, certain guys we were going to live with in the first three games. Today wasn't the case. Like Tony was at the top of our scouting report just because I recruited Tony when I was at Troy. And so Tony, the last 2 years, from three, he shot 25% and 28%. Right now, he's shooting a staggering right over 50% in conference play. So we said, like, listen, in years past, he hadn't been a good shooter. Right now, he's at a high level. So, man, we got to make him put it down. But, like I said, on the doubles, we go too early. Now they're skipping to a guy who's hot as a firecracker. So that's where the details come in, and that's where, like, man, we put them in situations every day where they have to understand, like, it's a method to our madness here. And so when we're getting you those small details, man, we really got to lock into them.
Coach, this is a top 10 team in the nation in both field goal attempts and field goals made. Would you talk about the players quickly doubling like that? Did it maybe there's some thoughts in their mind about we got to go quicker?
Man, like I said, I don't know until I go back and watch it. I just know we were a little too antsy early, trying to be aggressive, but can't happen. Can't do that, man. It's got to be about the details because I don't think we give up those threes in that first half if we're just disciplined enough to wait for the right timing. So that's the frustrating part because we had done a good job to that point of protecting the paint. But on the flip side of that, you're getting good shooters, wide open shots.
Coach, how difficult is it to, I guess you said about like getting jacked up, but not knowing if that really was an excuse, but maybe a reason. How difficult is that to manage emotions, but also focus on the X's and O's? Is that just a process that throughout the years, it's just never ending?
Well, it's almost like, man, you got a boat, right? and you get a leak, and then you plug that hole, and all of a sudden you get another one over here. You go plug that one, then you get another one. So that's the frustrating part, but it's where we are right now, and I have to do a better job of kind of foreseeing some of this and maybe going ahead and working on certain things before we get there, just in case. So it's like I said, it's a frustrating deal, but it's one we got to fix.